All right, you're unmuted.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I do not see anybody new other than, of course, Barbara joining us. So I'll just say welcome to all of us old guys on the phone. Just a really little bit of business, just to remind you that we're having a field trip if you're interested on Saturday, March 5th at, I believe it's 2:30 in the afternoon to the Abbott Marshlands. And we're going to be going to start at a lake. And there was information sent out, so just go to that. And if you haven't let me know, or you don't know for sure yet if you can make it, that's okay. You've got a little time yet. We're not real concerned. We don't have to have a final count or anything. Just at some point, we'd like to get an idea of who's going. And I know it'll be weather permitting, and that nobody's going to want to go out in the rain. Although we are going to go out in the cold, so. If it is cold in March, just be prepared to bundle up. Let's see what else. Next month, I'll wait for Valerie to get on to talk about our next speaker. I think that's all I need to cover. We uploaded the photos for NJFCC to NJFCC, so that's all taken care of. Terry told me, and that's all I can think of right now. Yeah, we know, Terry. Joe's going to fix it. Okay, there's Valerie. So we're going to fix that, Valerie. Valerie, you want to talk? Can you unmute Valerie so she can talk about our speaker on in February? Matt?
Yeah, she can unmute herself.
Okay.
Okay, he was giving me a hard time there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Maybe it's something I should go to bed. I had a rough day. Our speaker is actually going to be from the UK, which is why we are moving our date to the weekend. So I hope everybody can make it. But he does a lot of really great work. He's on Facebook. I'll drop it in chat as soon as I get myself settled here. But his name is also Matt, but he spells it with 2 T's. But he does a lot of really great work, and I'm excited for you all to see him. Some of it is from abandoned buildings, and he goes around Europe and does some things there. But his work is really quite outstanding. So I'm really looking forward to it. So mark your calendars for, what do we say, February 12th? Do I have the right date? I'm sorry, I'm a little scattered because I'm trying to get on.
I'm not sure. I think it might, yeah, yes, it must be. Yes, Saturday, February 12th.
Okay.
Yeah, at 4 o'clock, I believe.
At 4 o'clock. We didn't put it too early, too late. We were trying to kind of meet in the middle between his time and our time. So
yeah, so we have to be nice to him because I think it's 10 o'clock there, Valerie, when we start.
It'll be 9 o'clock. Yeah, they're 5 hours ahead of us.
So I guess he must be a night bird because I sure couldn't do something like that. All right.
Thank you.
Let's see. That's it. Matt, you're up.
All right. You should be able to see the results screen, I believe. Only thing I have is 2 members moved up from level 2 to level 3, and that's going to be Supra and John. They both moved up this year. We should have announced it last meeting, but we didn't have that completed yet at the time. So congratulations, you 2 guys. You're now in group 3.
And, congratulations. That's wonderful.
That's all that I
did
have.
just remember, Matt, that Linda wanted me to mention that she's still missing some people for renewals. And if it's anyone on this call, you will have gotten an email from her. So if you forgot, she will, you will have an email. So please make sure you renew by the end of the month because as of February 1st, you will be cut off from member benefits if you haven't gotten your renewal in at that point. And let's see.
And then also at the same time, February 2nd, you'll be able to upload your images for the next competition or any of the other ones.
Yes.
Joe should have
Yes.
them activated by that weekend or the next day or so.
Matt, have we heard from anybody about Glenny yet? It's usually right around now that we hear from them.
You know, I haven't seen any emails for Glenny,
Okay. No.
so I'm not
It should be soon.
sure what's up with Glenny.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll find it. All right. I think we are ready to get started. If you can unmute Lynn, I think she's going to introduce Barbara for us.
All right, let's find Lynn. She should be unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi, everyone. I'd like to introduce our judge for this evening, Barbara Warren. Barbara Warren is a Philadelphia-based photographer with a wide range of photographic interests. Her images have taken numerous awards in local juried shows over the years, including Best Body of Work twice and Best of Show once in the Phillips Mills Annual Juried Photography Show, the Curators Award in the Perkins Center of the Arts Photography Show, and the Chairman's Award at the Philadelphia Sketch Club. Her work can be seen at www.barbrawarren.com. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's open this up.
There we go. All right.
So Barbara, I'll announce the images and then you can take it from there. Get
Okay,
started.
great. And we were going to do a quick run through before each set, correct?
Yes. Yep, we can do that.
Perfect. That gives me just a lay of the land. And I'm curious, do you know how many images we have total?
There's what, 40, 50. There's like just under 60.
Okay, that's not too many. So I'll try to be give some decent feedback, but not take too long. So we won't be here until midnight.
Sounds great.
If you need to nudge me, because I do tend to talk. I do tend to spend more time than sometimes we'll fit in our time frame. So
We got started early, so we're in good shape.
okay, great.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to start with group one. This is beginner group. We have 2 images.
Okay.
All right. And our first image is,
Hold on. She wants to.
it is. Not there.
What is that?
Found Heart number 10.
Shall I just sort of, we don't really need a run through if there's only 2. So actually, I think this is very creative. I like sort of the lines and textures that are from the shells. There's some that are sort of shaped like half hearts. And I think kind of seeing a heart in this is a very original and creative viewpoint. I think it's a little out of focus. It looks like, at least on my screen. You know what? That might be my screen, not you. Let me try something. Okay, I can't make it smaller. Oh, wait a minute, there we go. There we go. That's better. That way I'm not seeing artifacts that I shouldn't see. So yeah, there's a little bit of fuzziness in the background, but I think that's okay for this. But overall, I think it's a really fantastic idea. I like kind of all of the loops that you see, little half circles. They're just kind of all over, and they flow very nicely in the picture. So I'll give this one a 9.
Blue amaryllis.
I think you did a very fantastic job on the composition. Your boundaries are like really excellent. The flower itself, I think, is well shaped. There's not a lot of confusing elements in it. The lighting is interesting. It's more of a side lighting than straight on, and so that gives depth to the image. But maybe maybe 2 sources of light might have been nice here. One more from the front so that you see more of the center part of the flower itself. And that also might help with the shadow that's up in the left-hand corner. That might soften that a little bit, that's in the background. But overall, I think for a beginner, both of these are excellent images. I'll give them a 9. The one thing that I would say you might possibly improve on this is you don't have total depth of field. There's some softness particularly in the back. But that's hard to do with flowers. So I think sometimes you just cannot get that full depth of field that you might like. But if possible, if you were on a tripod and could stop down quite a bit, I think you might actually be able to capture a little bit more. But overall, both of these were excellent. So this is a 9.
All right, we have 2 9s. So I need one of these as the first place. So you can see thumbnails at the bottom.
Yes.
Okay. So you have this image or this image.
Boy, tough choice. They're both very, very good in different elements. I think I'll go with the flower.
Flower, okay. All right. And we won't review the contest because it's the only one. So now we move on to group 2. There's 10 images in this. We'll flip through them real quick.
Okay.
And we need a first, second, third, 2 HMs.
Okay.
4 and 1 on black.
I think this is a really beautiful image. I like how you've created the repetition here and also the angles, particularly at the top. The one on the top left looks like you can see very deeply into it. It looks like the 2 are forming like a corner of a room. So you have great sense of depth in the image itself. And it's true for the one on the top on the right, except of course in the opposite direction. So I think that this is actually very beautifully done. I'll give this one a 9.
Misty beach day.
I love the soft kind of romantic feel that this has. The way you've colored it feels very kind of old-fashioned, like a very old photograph, and I think that's a great attribute. Boy, you guys have a lot of good images in here. I would give this one a 9 as well. The only thing I might comment on is that there's a little stick in the lower right or form. I don't know if it's a stick or not, but my eye goes to that, and I prefer my eye not to go out of the frame, and that sort of leads me out of the frame. So perhaps cloning that out might strengthen it, or cropping it out, perhaps. I think that would work a little bit better. So, but yes, very, very nicely done. A fantastic feel to this image.
Ever Ready Diner.
I like this also has that sort of antique feel to it. The framing, I guess, is from, must be from like an old slide, I presume. Yeah, I'm trying to place it, but I don't know quite what that is. But it does look like a slide to me. I think there's a little bit of keystoning going on in this image, or else it needs to be straightened a little bit, particularly the tower, in the very middle. It's a little bit off to the left, and I think it would it would work a little bit better if that were strictly vertical. There's a lot of interesting, kind of unusual reflections and light highlights kind of right to the left in the middle. I think that's where the sun is bouncing off the roof, but it creates an odd look that is a little bit hard to read. I'll give this one an 8.
Dew in the Moon.
Again, very interesting and creative use of a circular frame. And I love sort of the technical quality of the little spores or whatever they are in the center. Excellent depth of field and technically very sharp, very, very nice. And the kind of the aura that you have around the outside is, I think, very interesting as well. It's not perfectly centered, and I don't know how I feel about that. You notice it because it's obviously there. I do like sort of the white edge on the right-hand side. I love the curves that occur between the brown and the white there. But a part of me would like to see this more centered, because certain images just demand to be centered, and I think this is maybe one of them. The other thing I would suggest is there's a kind of a hot spot down on the lower left-hand corner where you're not quite burned out, but it's noticeably brighter than the rest of the image. And so I would try to tone that down and maybe have the white be similar in tonality to the kind of the light yellows that you have in the rest of the picture. Overall, I like it a lot. The thing that's kind of interesting is there's a little green, tiny bit of green foliage amidst all the red foliage, and it's I don't know how I feel about it. I sort of like the pop of color that it adds and the contrast, but on the other hand, everything else has such a nice color palette that fits very nicely. I'm almost inclined to want to see that in sort of the same tonalities as the reds or the sort of the light greens in the rest of the picture. It would be something to try. It could go either way. I think it would work either way. But just the thought that you might try and see if you like it better that way. I'll give this one a 9.
Bo Van Gogh.
Well, this one's definitely manipulated quite heavily. I think the patterns that you have in sort of the background are interesting. But I think maybe there's a bit too much of them. So maybe if you had the kind of the swirly patterns in the flower itself, but had a background that was a little bit more muted, possibly blurred a tiny bit so that the flower stands out from the background a little bit more. Right now, they're too close to each other in sort of textural quality. You can definitely see the flower, but it's fighting with the background, or the background is fighting with it, I should say. And I think one or the other. You could maybe go the other way. I think the background is actually very interesting and fascinating in and of itself. You could maybe blur out the flower, although that might look really bizarre, but it's an idea to play with. I'll give this one a 7.
Sole survivor.
You know, this is a very nice spot coloring. But the one thing I think that really makes it stand out for me is the fact that there's a stem that's coming across from the middle of the flower, and it goes down to the right-hand corner, lower right-hand corner, and that is still colored. You can see the green on the stem. And I think that actually really makes this image a bit special. A lot of times you'll see spot coloring where the flower is colored and the rest of the image isn't, but the fact that you've included the stem, I think, really makes it work extremely well. And that line flows so nicely from that corner to the flower. I think that it really actually worked out extremely well. I'll give this one a 9.
Foggy Lagoon.
This also has that kind of feeling of ancient, an old picture, which I think works really well with these kind of dead vines. You get the sense of antiquity. Basically, everything feels old and sort of almost, I hate to say dying, but perhaps a bit dead. And I think the coloration and kind of how you've handled it works extremely well with it. One thing that I noticed, and I'm not quite sure why this is happening, maybe it's just how the image is, but in the main area where you have the plant coming down is sort of it's almost like a heart shape. There's a lot of light white, kind of a background that kind of goes from I wish I could show my pointer here, from the kind of where the reflection ends up. And it's a little bit distracting because I don't know why that's happening. It could be that's what was in the picture itself. But I think sort of making that the same tonality as the rest of the water would allow you to focus more on the vines. And right now my eye tends to go to that white area and wondering why it's so much, why it's lighter than the rest of the image. That could be that actually you were trying to lighten that area, but you also lightened the background as well. I don't know, or like I said, it could be an art. I think that's maybe what's happening. In that case, you can lighten sort of the midtones only and not the highlights or the darker areas. But that's a little more complicated in Photoshop, but I think that's what I would recommend that you try. I'll give this one a 7.
Fire Patrol.
I think this is very nicely done. I like the colorations. Very nice choice of sort of bright, contrasting colors. You've got some some blues and orange, which are counterparts, and then the greens and the reds, which are counterparts. It works very, very well in this image. It's kind of interesting. It's Fire Patrol, but it feels there's sort of a calmness, even though it's like maybe not a calmness as much as it's a happy picture, which you don't necessarily think of when you think of the Fire Patrol. But for whatever reason, I think it works quite well. I'll give this one an 8.
Blue Moon on the Blue Ridge.
I love what you've done with the moon and the kind of they almost look like snowflakes, but I guess they would be stars. It gives a very otherworldly feel to the image. I don't know what kind of camera this was taken with, but your landscape down here is pretty texturized, I guess, which probably means it might have been taken with a phone, because phone cameras tend to do that. And unfortunately, I wish it were more, better defined. Perhaps when you have something like that, there's not much you can do about it in terms of trying to fix it. But if you cropped a little bit off the bottom, maybe right up to a little bit below the cow, then that kind of green kind of crunchiness is what I call it, is less noticeable. You can also darken that down just a tiny bit, and then that allows your eye to kind of focus on the barn, which is beautifully detailed and actually done very well, and the sky, which is also done very well. So I think cropping the bottom a little bit on this would help it a lot. But I love sort of the creativity that you've put into it in terms of the sky and the moon. I'll give this one an 8.
Trees on the hood.
Right? I'm trying to figure out exactly what this is. It's very interesting. I like sort of the mosaic feel that it has to it. I think for something that has this kind of a textural quality of a mosaic, I wish that the whole image had that quality, and there's sort of right in the very center, it's blurry. I don't know kind of why that happened, but it sort of detracts from the sort of the uniformity and interest of the other mosaic pieces. You could possibly, if that were just some artifact when you were taking the picture, you could possibly clone another section and cover that up to kind of make that work a little bit better. But compositionally, I think it's very nice. I love sort of the kind of the up and down, particularly the bottom row of, they sort of look like upside down trees to me, actually. Which kind of makes me wonder what this would look like if you rotated 180 degrees, so that you might actually have the feel of a landscape for this. I also really like this kind of element that's the gold part. It's a nice little contrast to the rest of the image, and I think it adds a little bit of punch, which is quite nice. I'll give this one an 8. I'd really love to see it 180 degrees though.
All right, we have 4 9s, so we need a first, second, and third from here.
Okay.
So this is image 1, image 2, image 3, and image 4. And I can scroll to anyone you want to see, or just scroll back, whichever.
Okay, and I know which is which. The second one will be third place.
The beach here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the microscopic image will be second place.
This one, okay.
And then the first one, it will be first place.
Right.
Yes.
And this is an HM. We have 4 8s, and I need 1
Okay.
for an HM. So we got this one, this one, this one, and this one.
Let's go with the second one, fire patrol or whatever. Yeah.
All right. And now we'll review.
Honorable mention, sole survivor, Walter Blitz. Congratulations, Walter. I don't think he's on the phone tonight. Fire Patrol, Tom O'Rourke. Congratulations, Tom. And third place, Misty Beach Day, Terry Donofrio. Congratulations, Terry. Second place, Dew in the Moon, Lou DeVico. Congratulations, Lou. Matt, before we go to break, I just have one quick announcement that I forgot. Anyone who is going to enter PSA, the deadline is the 30th, which is, I believe, this Friday. So just remember to, or is it Friday or is it Saturday?
Sunday. Sunday's the 30th.
Sunday. Thank you. Okay. So Sunday is the 30th. So just remember to get your photos in. It's pictorial and nature. You can put in up to 5, and then levels 2, 3, and 4 will vote on which of those will represent the club to the PSA competition.
Excellent. And we'll go on break after this next group.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we have 25 images. And we'll go through them real quick.
You got your work cut out for you, Barb.
Yeah, there's a lot in this one. It's hard because these are, this is the quality so far has been fabulous. So I can't believe that was the beginners and the slightly more advanced group. I don't know what you call the second group, but very good quality overall.
Okay. Sunday flower bouquet.
I think this has a gorgeous texture to it. That's the first thing that sort of really hit me. It can be hard to do textures that complement the subject matter, but I think you've done a great job with this one. In particular, I think the wall, the way you've kind of texturized the whole thing really brings out the wall and the chair and the shadow of the chair. I love the chair itself. It's almost broken up at the top right. And the flowers just add a nice pop of color overall. It's nice because the greenery in the background and the wall itself are more muted colors, and then the flowers are brighter and more saturated. And I think that's a really nice element of this picture. I'll give it a 9.
Snowy tree.
I love the dreamy quality of this. It's like out of a dream, basically. And it's not just the kind of, it looks like a drive-by shooting is what it's been called, of a tree, where there's kind of the parallel lines that run across the image and across the tree. But on top of that, you've added this sort of star-like effect, which I think is just beautiful. I love it. It's a 9.
Northern exposure.
I guess in terms of manipulation, this is the Aurora Borealis is the part that is manipulated in this. It also has sort of a flat coloration. I assume there would maybe because it's should be night and it should be darker in general. That's why there's less contrast between the sand and the water. So it gives sort of a very different feel to the image. It doesn't feel very realistic because of the fact that it sort of looks like day, but it isn't. But I think it's an interesting idea. I like sort of there's a lot of vertical lines in the aurora itself, but then you also have the two vertical lines kind of encasing the poles, encasing everything. And I think that's a nice repetitive element in the image. In terms of repetition, another kind of interesting way that you've created repetition is sort of, there's three basic stripes going across the image: the sky, the water, and then the land. And that gives sort of a uniformity to the image that sort of reinforces some of the more geometric elements of it. So I think it's there's a lot. It's a subtle image, but there's a lot to look at as you look at it a little bit longer. I'll give this one an 8.
Tunnel Dream Vision.
I like the color palette on this one quite a bit. Nice selection of contrasting colors, and you don't have a lot of light to dark contrast. So that really, I think, helps define the image. I'm glad that there's some strong lines with I guess the headlights and the taillights, and then maybe that's the road markers itself. Because that gives some definition to the image, because a lot of the treatment sort of softens the image and it's harder to read. Like the tree that's on the left side is a little harder to actually read. So the elements where you do have some very strong, bold lines help counterbalance that. Again, this might be a little bit where the texture is almost overwhelming the image, and either maybe make the texture, you might try making the texture a little bit more subtle, or possibly making it, applying it to parts of the image, but not all of the image, or varying the intensity across the image so that there's a little, it's a little less, I guess, overwhelming is what I would say. I'll give this one an 8.
Erie Harbor.
I like the ghostly quality that this has. You notice it mostly kind of in the horizon, with the particularly where the mountain is in the background, but also where the treetops are and that tops of the houses. But it's very subtly also obvious around the rim of the boat itself, which I think is kind of what makes this work. And I almost wonder, I don't know, well, it's hard to crop out the top, and I think you do need the sky to make it work. I think my eye wants to go to the houses, but in reality, what is the subject to me is the boat. So I think maybe perhaps darkening down the houses and themselves and lightening up the boat might help the viewer's eye go to the boat, which probably has the most interest. Although I think the houses are very interesting. So I don't know, it's a kind of a tough call as to how to balance it, or maybe just lightening the boat a little bit so that it's more equal to the houses that are in the background. But overall, I think it's well composed and an interesting idea. And I love sort of the glowiness of the water, particularly in the very bottom. I'll give this one an 8.
Busting Loose.
I love the combination of almost fireworks and the flower. I think it's beautifully done. I love the fact that the orange and the purples of the kind of fireworks, they're not fireworks, but they sort of look like fireworks. I like that they echo the colors in the flower. I think that's very nicely done. I like the composition where you've centered the flower. It's offset from the middle. I'll give this one a 9.
Butterflies and weeds.
I like the textural quality that's going on in the very center of this image. I've played around with this particular filter in Photoshop, and the one thing that I find that I personally don't like about it, because I think it detracts from most of the images that I see it with, is the stripes that are in the corners. It tends to compete with what the beautiful butterflies that are in the inside, and it doesn't quite, you have a picture of nature, but the green stripes don't quite match that. So it's always hard to figure out what to do with those, because I would not, I'd hate to see you lose any of the butterfly elements, because they're really fantastic. Perhaps, again, just darkening them down, or even just making this a circular or oval picture might be a way to deal with that. But I do think it's beautifully done. I love the texture, the kind of the crunchy, crackly texture, as well as sort of the composition of the butterflies. I'll give this one a 9. Beautiful colors too.
Judge.
This one, again, has a very antique feel to it, which I think works quite well. You've vignetted the edges, which I think also kind of gives that sort of very old-fashioned photograph feel to it. Kind of what you've done with the foliage in the front, I think it is very interesting. It's obviously manipulated and changed. And here you didn't do it to the whole image. And I think that's what makes it work, because you see the kind of the textural quality in the bottom, but it's a very realistic photo of the house or barn itself. So I think that makes it work. It adds the texturizing adds an element of interest without sort of overwhelming the picture. And I think that's a really good choice of how you did this. I noticed that sort of the top of this structure is a little flat. I'd be curious to see what the image would look like if that were more contrasty, if the contrast matched the rest of the barn. But I think I kind of like the lower contrast at the top, because it gives you a sense of maybe fog. That's what it feels like. And so it kind of adds a little bit of atmosphere to the image that you might not have if you did what I just suggested. I'll give this one a 9.
Time for tea.
This has a very romantic quality to it that I think is quite nice. I love the sort of the colors. They're all sort of yellowed and antiqued. Again, a very, very nice effect. I think here's another situation where it might be interesting to see the teacup and the saucer without the texturizing, or less of the texturizing, so that there's a sense of background versus foreground. I don't know, if you did it and I looked at it, I might not like it. So it's an idea for you to explore more than a recommendation of you should do this. And a lot of my comments are like that. Until you look at it a little bit differently, you don't know if you're going to like it with the changes. But I do kind of feel like the tea sort of fades into the rest of the picture. And I would like it to stand out a little bit more. Perhaps you could lighten it a bit so that it's more, to me, perhaps the subject is the flowers. They're absolutely gorgeous. but then of course that's the totally a different picture. But I think it's very nicely done. Otherwise, I love the backgrounds, the kind of the pale yellows and the hint. There's a hint of a garden almost in the background, which I think is a really, really beautiful element. I'll give this one a 9.
The birds sing on every tree.
I love the birds in the sky, and the birds in the tree are just fantastic. It's a very eerie, almost Halloweenish feel, and sort of the way the clouds are the clouds kind of emphasize the birds because they sort of come. There's kind of diagonal lines from the tree that point to the down toward the left toward the birds themselves, and I think that's a nice capture. And how you've framed this picture. The colors are very striking and unusual. It almost feels like, the world's on fire, perhaps. And I'm curious, again, this would be something to play around with, just trying different colors to see if you liked it one way or the other better. But I think this does stand out very nicely. I like the yellows and the oranges. I'll give it a 9.
Out of the dark.
Yeah, this image has a lot in it between the COVID elements and then the two. It looks like 2 people are in the picture itself. I like this, how things are sort of stacked in this image. There's a really good sense of depth. Like in the upper left-hand corner feels a little further back, and the upper right-hand corner feels very forward. You've done a very good job of creating a sense of depth, which is hard to do when you're putting together like these elements like this. Same is true of the man on the left and the woman on the right. She feels a lot closer. He feels further in the background. So putting, when you're doing a composite like this, putting those elements together so that you do get that sense of proper perspective is really difficult. And actually, I think you've done a wonderful job pulling it together. And overall, I think the composition is quite nice. I love how you've used kind of a dark blue in the background, and then there's some lighter blue that also kind of gives you a sense of, I think that helps give you that sense of depth. That's really hard to achieve in an image like this. I'll give it a 9.
Two Morgans.
This has a very creepy feel to it. The girl on the left she has this like sort of fake smile and sort of wide eyes, like she's possessed. And then the second one sort of looks like the girl from the original movie that's very, very old. So some of you might remember it, some of you might not. But the one where her head spins around, that just reminds me of that. So it has a very spooky feel from the 2 expressions on the faces, but also from the way that you've done the lighting. I think it's a nice combination of 2 images. I'll give this one an 8.
Church of the Holy Cross.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if this is a late afternoon or nighttime picture, or whether you've used a polarizer to get a very, very dark sky and perhaps darkened it a bit more. it doesn't really matter how you took it, but it is, it does stand out as distinctive and unusual. And I suppose maybe because the church itself is probably more of a steel or concrete color rather than the reddish color that shows in this image. I guess in terms of this looks kind of mostly like a landscape to me, but what my eye goes to are the little people standing on the balcony there. And I sort of wish they weren't in there because it feels, I want to look at it as a landscape that's sort of almost an alien landscape, and the people sort of focus it, you know, kind of make it more concrete and earthly. And I think kind of what you seem to be going for here is almost like a lunar landscape kind of thing. Also, I noticed that the top, the hills up on the right side at the very top are a little bit lighter, and I think again, kind of matching them tonality with what's the rest of the image would work a little bit better. I'll give this one a 7.
Twilight at the Marsh.
This one has a very wonderful feel to it. I love the blur, the motion blur caused by camera movement. And then on top of that, you've added some nice texturizing quality that it feels like fireflies almost, so it has a very nice mood to it. I think for this one, kind of the left-hand side, if you kind of cut it right in the middle, the left-hand side works very well. The right-hand side, not as much. And I think in part because of the, maybe there needs to be more variation in the tonality of the sort of the lighter area. And then this one piece at the very lower right that feels like a sheet more than a stripe kind of breaks the mood for me on this one. But otherwise, I think it is, and I think maybe there's a lot of yellow in the right and the lower right that sort of is a little bit, I wish it were closer in tonality and colors to what's on the left. So I don't think it works quite as well as another one that was similar to this. But I think that with working with the colors and maybe a little cloning, this could be absolutely fabulous as well. I'll give this one an 8.
Mosaic art.
I think with this one, you have kind of the line drawing going around the elements in the picture. And I don't, to me, it maybe feels, I'm trying to figure out what doesn't feel right to me. Perhaps it's the colors. The rocks are very dark. The water is very dark, and the trees in the background are all very dark. And that just sort of is very stark in contrast to the lines around the trees and around the rocks. And I think if that, like it, but if you look at the structure, the lighthouse itself, there's less contrast between the edging and the elements, the rocks or the walls or the roof. And that part of the image, I think, works better than the rocks, the rocks in the front. The bricks in the front look great that the structure is standing on. I think that is actually, if you had a tonality closer to that with the rocks at the bottom and the trees and the water, that would make this picture work a bit better. Because I think there's a nice texture quality going on in the center there. So I'll give this one an 8.
My Christmas cat gone mod.
I like the painterly quality that you have in this image. The cat itself has these sort of fluid, sort of soft lines, whereas the background, the lines are much more geometric and straight. And I think, again, that's a great example of sort of the way you've chosen to texturize it to bring out the cat as soft and fuzzy and fluid, and the background is more geometric. I think that works very well in terms of, again, not overwhelming the picture. If the texture was all like the cat, I think this could be a very confusing picture, because there is a lot of color and contrast and detail going on. And if it were all this soft, flowy lines, the texturing would overwhelm the image itself. But because you've done it differently in the background, I think that makes it work a lot better. I'll give this one an 8.
Buttons.
You have some interesting elements in these buttons. I love this gray one at the top right that has kind of like these swirly lines in it. It looks like it's an inverted image, basically, because the holes are light where they normally would be black. So you just inverted it. And I actually kind of like that quality of that. But you've only done it once, and I think it would work better if you've done it a couple of times. Also, I think some of these, like on the lower left, there's a very plain button with a lot of sort of scrappy detail in the circles. And if I look below, I see other buttons that look a lot more interesting in terms of textural detail and lines. So I think this is an interesting and a creative idea. But I think playing around with the composition and moving some of the buttons around, you could probably get something a little bit more striking. I love this happy face, in sort of the center in the middle. There's a nice little smiley face, which again, it's on the edge. I think it would work better if it had more prominence. And I like the 2 orange buttons, but that are in the front, but the one in the back, it's mostly hidden, and either you need to repeat the hidden one again somewhere else, maybe on the lower left, perhaps, to make that sort of color choice work. So I think there's a lot of potential here. I would play around with it more. I'll give it an 8.
Life and death.
I'm looking at the dead flower, and it's I wish it had, I don't know, maybe perhaps it's missing, like at the top of the flower, it has these dead elements, whereas at the bottom, it's mostly just the brown at this point. And it doesn't have sort of the beautiful appeal that the live sunflower does. And perhaps maybe that's the point you'd like to make. But the other part is the leaf of the dead part. That's kind of, it doesn't really look attached to the dead flower. It looks separate from the dead flower. The dead leaf at the bottom, there's 2 elements. One goes to the left and the other sort of goes straight down the middle and out the picture. So that actually doesn't have the same sense of realism that the flower in the background has. So I think it would work better with maybe a different choice of flowers, or somehow kind of arranging the dead leaves so that they seem to fit better with the flower itself. I'll give this one a 7.
I can't believe this.
This one, it's an interesting idea. The first thing that I really notice on this though is sort of the lack of focus, and particularly in the front, kind of the base that's holding the frog in the circular, whatever that is, snowball, I guess. So I think that is a bit problematic. It's also very crunchy. Like if you look at her, like it's over sharpened. If you look at her eyebrows and her eyes, there's a white sort of kind of film around them, or a line. That's usually an indication of over sharpening. And it's sort of just, those are the things that I notice. I think the other element that doesn't quite work is the bright red. There's a lot going on in this picture already, and the bright red just sort of fights again with the rest of the image. So I think maybe toning down the background so that you notice the frog, like the red in the background pretty much overwhelms the frog. So I think maybe toning that down would help it. I'll give this one a 7.
Tea and roses.
This has a very beautiful classic feel to it, still life. I love the texturing you've put on it, and I love sort of the dark brownish background. You have a very strong sense of wood at the base, but then the background itself behind the flowers and the vase is just got this gorgeous texture in it. The one thing that's a tad, well, I guess confusing, is the lid of the teapot is sort of blurred. So you don't know if that's in motion, or I think it might just be depth of field, perhaps. I'm not sure what's going on there, but the handle of the teapot is a little blurred as well. So perhaps that's just depth of field. But I think if that were as sharp, as in focus as the neck and the rest of the teapot, that would help it a bit. But overall, I think it has a nice, wonderful feel to it, good sense of depth. I'll give it a 9.
My art, my hope.
I like the lines that you have here, sort of the curve of the peacock. It's an unusual way to capture a peacock. Usually they're a little bit more standing up, but it has some nice, beautiful curves that sort of also occur in the feathers themselves. The background itself, again, I think is very, very interesting. I love the texture quality and the variation from yellow to kind of dark orange. But again, it sort of competes with the peacock itself. Yeah, I'm wondering if you cropped a lot of the feathers out, would that make it more balanced and work? It's hard because I do like sort of the contrast of the colors, but I think again it's almost like there's too much going on in the image. Perhaps if you darken the background down to sort of what it's like more on the far left or the far right, so the yellow is not the brightest part of the image, that might make it work a bit better. I'll give this one an 8.
Scanning for signs.
Again, I think the texturing on this is gorgeous. There's little hints of, particularly in the lower left, there's little hints that look almost like chalkboard writing that, a scientist would be writing on and solving problems. There's little repetitions of that up in the upper left and the upper right that gives that texture, a sense of belonging with this image that I think makes it work very well. I sort of wish there was a tad more room on the right, because it feels, the structure feels a little cramped. But I also love the colors that you've chosen. There's some blues and pinks and lilacs for the background that I think just gives it a very beautiful quality. I'll give this one a 9. And I love sort of the depth of field and how sharp and just detailed all those lines that you can see in the structure itself are just beautiful. That's a 9.
Steeplechase in pandemic winter.
Boy, there's a lot going on in this image. And actually, I think it actually works. It's the kind of, it almost looks like Olympic structures. I don't know if that's what that is or not, but I love the fact that you can see through them into sort of this, it looks like a mountainous background to me. It's a very busy image, but for some reason it feels like it works. It's not too overwhelming, which has been a theme of mine, I guess, throughout this competition. The one thing that I would say, if you take out the building that's on the far left and leave the sort of tall structure with the spindles at the top, and just the circular kind of like roller coaster look of the far right, I think that actually makes it work for several reasons. One is the structure on the left has big, heavy black areas, and the tall tower and the roller coaster element, the lines are much more delicate. So those two structures work beautifully together, but this other one sort of is just too, it doesn't have that same sense of delicacy that the other parts of the image have. So I think maybe cropping that out would work better. And then I think you have just, I really like it that way cropped. I think it's very beautiful. But I have the sense of like the background is sort of a mountain range. And I think it's very nicely done. The one thing I'm also wondering is whether or not the white at the bottom should be colorized. I don't know. It's your eye goes to the white. Maybe trying just a little color possibly, but overall, I think it's just a really beautiful image. I'll give it a 9.
Matt, you got 99, 9.99 now.
I can't see any of it, so give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Is it not gone now?
No, not yet. Still says 9.99.
It froze. What's it say now? Anything?
Still 9.99.
Great.
Okay,
Now-
it's gone.
Okay, good. There we go.
Okay, you're good. Nighttime.
I like the sense of these lights flowing. They're obviously, I guess this must be a drive-by because otherwise, obviously the lights cannot be moving. But I like the sense of drama they add to the image. I think for this image, kind of what really appeals to me is sort of the strong white lines on the left and the little delicate lines sort of in the middle on the left, and then the brown lines that are sort of, I guess, the pavement. And I think that's the part of the image that really has a lot going for it. The rest of the right hand, I would basically recommend cropping it out, because what is really interesting is the quality of these white lines, the fat white lines, the skinny white lines, and then the brown lines coming out of that side. So if you crop down so that the focus of the picture is all about those lines, I think it's a much more coherent picture and really brings out the contrast between the color, the size, and the direction of these various lines on the left-hand side. I'll give this one an 8.
Is the 8 up there?
No. Yes. Barn near Bantam Lake.
This has again, a very nice old faded quality to it. Yeah, I think it's nicely done. I'll give this one an 8.
All right, we have 11 9s. So I'll go through those.
And how many do I need?
You need a first, second, and third, and 5 HMs.
5 HMs, and I have 11 total.
Yes.
So 3. Okay, gotcha. All right, let's run through them quickly.
So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
And so I need to remove 3, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So you need the first, second, and third, and then the rest
Okay.
of the HMs.
So let's take out the teacup, which is in the middle.
Okay.
And you can also take out the birds and trees next to it.
All right.
And then also take out the black and white barn.
Okay.
Now I just need my first, second, and third.
I'll run back. I'll go backwards through them again so you can see them.
Okay.
Those are being removed.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Third place will be the second one. The ghost trees.
The snowy tree here.
Yeah.
Okay. This is third place, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Honestly, this is a tough decision
Right.
because these are all so good. Second place will be the radio telescope, the very next to last one.
All right. This one's second.
And first place will be the very last one.
This one here.
Yes.
All right. So then we have an HM. HM. That one you've removed. HM. HM. And HM.
Okay,
All right. We'll review this contest and then we'll take a quick 5-minute break.
okay, the honorable mentions. Starting with Sunday Flower Bouquet, Matt Rink. Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
Bursting Loose, Valerie Williams, honorable mention. Congratulations, Valerie. Butterflies and Weeds, Stan Pepka, honorable mention. Congratulations, Stan. Out of the Dark, Michael Pavley, honorable mention. Congratulations, Michael. Tea and Roses, Rose Scudari. Congratulations, Rose. Third place. Snowy Tree, Kathy DeTana. Congratulations, Kathy. Second place. Scanning for Signs, Vicky DeVico. Congratulations, Vicky.
All right. Anybody that wants to unmute themselves, they can. And I'll put a 5-minute timer up.
Well, I have to say, these were some fantastic images. It was really hard to pick the first, second, and third. They're just in any other competition. I think any of those could have been first place. They're all like really, really beautiful and well done and very creative.
I will say that the flower with the sparks, that really was a firework that I found that just happened to match the flower perfectly.
Oh, yeah, that was fabulous. I love that one. Yeah, you know, and it's like, I hate to give it an honorable mention because it's so nice, right? It's a really difficult, the competition is tough.
Yep, it's a good group.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I'm looking at some of these images going, God, I wish that were mine. And on a number of these, I realized they were just really fabulous.
I have to say, I think it's just such a pleasure to really see. I mean, we're a digital camera club, and it just really feels like we're so digital tonight that it's just, I think it's very exciting and neat to be seeing images like this.
Yeah, and it can be very difficult to modify an image, right? And have it come out right. That it's actually a different kind of creativity and skill versus taking a picture. So I think there's a lot to be said for sort of people's post-processing skills. Yeah, the one that Michael Padway did of the Black Lives Matters, I just thought kind of I have done composites, and getting that sense of perspective is so hard when you're pulling elements together like that. It's really quite impressive that that worked as well as it did.
Well, thank you. Was difficult.
Well, you should do more like that because, once you do one, you sort of get the hang of it, but you really did have a great sense of depth in that image, which that's one of the difficulties in doing a good composite is getting that, because a lot of times they just feel flat rather than like elements have just been pasted on, but you managed to pull it off in a way that didn't happen. So.
And I think for some of our members, this was a first time trying something like this. So I hope they're inspired because it's just so neat to see. There's so much you can do. I mean, you can go back to all your old images and look at them all in a totally different way.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you start pulling elements from different images, it makes up for not being able to travel. And yeah, I won't say it makes up. It's something you can do when we can't travel like we usually like to do,
Yeah,
you know?
we can't necessarily make a lot more images. We can just
Exactly.
Do something with the old ones.
Yeah, I guess Kathy DeTana, she's the one that did the snowy trees. I thought that was
Yes.
a really beautiful take as well. I was really
Yes.
impressed. There are just so many of these that were just fantastic.
Yes.
And
I
I
could see
think
that.
that
I could see that as a Christmas card or
oh God,
a
yes. That's such a
painting. I could
beautiful-
see it on the wall. That's
yeah, I
beautiful.
would make that my Christmas card for next year if I were you, Kathy.
Where'd that come from?
So when do you usually finish up? Around 10?
Usually, yeah.
So that's your target. So I know I tend to talk at length about the images, but I think that's the whole point in these competitions. It's more to learn than, you know,
Yes.
getting
Yes.
points. So the
Yes.
more detailed you can be, the better.
And I think level 4 is usually one of our smaller groups. So
Okay.
not smallest, but just from not, no, it won't be as big as the others. Matt will prove me wrong.
Yeah, it's not the smallest. There's more than group 2
No,
on group 4, but it's smaller than the last.
okay.
Let me mute everybody. I think everybody's muted actually, just make sure.
You know, one thing about Zoom meetings is you're not as anxious to end the meeting on time because people don't have to drive home, you know,
Yeah.
that which is a nice one of the nice advantages of doing Zoom meeting.
All right, there's 19 images. We'll go through them real quick. Need a first, second, third, and 4 HMs. And here we go.
Great.
Okay. Oculus.
A very nicely done pattern piece. I like the one thing about pattern pieces like this is getting your corners exactly right, and you've done a very good job here. The lighting's beautiful. I like the colors too. There's a subtle green in the center, which I think works very well. And I like sort of the patterning. It almost looks like Venetian blinds on the circular part of it. It's do I rate these as well? It's a 9 if that's the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Books by ICM.
I like the subtle quality of this one. It's interesting because I'm looking at it on my tablet versus my computer, and on my computer it's much more muted, and on my tablet it's much more contrasty. I tend to go by my computer because it is calibrated, whereas tablets are not, and so it's hard to know what everyone else is seeing. But I like the muted quality of this. Reminds me of a painting, and I think that's a kind of a nice element to this. It also has sort of a kind of a parenthesis. Each side is a little bit dark, and all of the action is in the center, and I think that gives it a nice kind of bookcase, so to speak. I'll give this one an 8.
Sleeping Cat.
Yeah, the processing on this gives it a very painterly feel. Yeah, I got to quit looking at these on both my tablet because it's hard. They look very different, unfortunately. Yeah, the tablet is really, really sharp. The my computer is less so. So it can make it hard to judge because of these sort of differences in our digital technologies. But I like sort of the dark kind of colors of this. It's a very moody picture, and I guess there's Christmassy feel because there's Christmas packages, I guess, next to the cat. I'll give this one an 8.
Getting breakfast.
I like the foggy quality and the sort of the contrast of the 3 boats. I think that they sort of not quite line up, but they have sort of a good sense of perspective. The one on the left is closer, the one on the right is further, and the one in the middle is the furthest, based on sort of the feel and the sense of fog. I almost kind of feel like I kind of like the simplicity of the boats, the trees in the background and the sky, and I don't feel like the need to have the duck in the picture. Actually, I think it gives it a more ethereal quality to kind of crop out the duck in the grass in the lower parts, and I love that sort of ethereal quality that you get when you do that. They're almost like they're floating on air. I'll give this one a 9.
Amusement park ride.
It's kind of an interesting commentary, almost, in the sense that you have this sense of these people that are in a jail, from the bars that you see in the front. And of course, it's an amusement ride, which is sort of the ironic nature of the picture. I like sort of how the clouds mask the people almost. They're almost like they're disappearing into it. But I guess part of what I would like to see on this image is most of the color and contrast that draws my eye in is on the legs and the feet. And the faces and upper bodies are sort of darker and sort of masked in sort of more muted colors. And for me, that doesn't work as well. As usually we're more interested in people's faces than we are in their feet. So I guess I wish I saw more highlight in the upper part of this. I'll give this one an 8.
Woman posing among tulips.
This has a very painterly quality to it, a very abstract. I probably would not have recognized the tulips as tulips except with the title. But it doesn't really matter because it's not really about tulips per se. I do like the texturing that you've done on the tulips is very different than the texturing on the trees, and I think that is very good. And the fact that the sky is not textured makes it much, I think, much more workable. I'll give this one a 9.
Rainbow sculptures.
This one again, I'm kind of, for me, because of the colors and the texture and variety, my eye goes to the bottom half of the picture. But in general, people are sort of the subject, and they're up in the top, and they're dark and in a dark background. So there's sort of, I'm not sure what the subject matter is, I guess, in this picture. Is it the people or is it the patterning in the bottom part? I think if there were more balance between the people and this waves that are going on in the front in terms of tonality, like lightening the back and darkening the front or the bottom a little bit, might help kind of tie the two parts together a little bit better. I'll give this one an 8.
Deconstructed wave.
I really like the quality of this one. I love the sense of straw. I wouldn't necessarily have recognized it as a wave, which is quite all right. It almost looks like a field of flowers, or not a field of, not flowers, of grasses. And it has sort of a really beautiful quality to it. My only quibble might be at the very bottom, that the stuff at the very bottom is my eye goes to it and leads me out of the picture. I would kind of darken it down perhaps, or crop it out so that the tonality in the bottom stays in that darker range. It's a 9.
Stairway to Heaven.
I think the colors in this are quite nice. They're contrasty but subtle. I guess because they're not so saturated as other pictures might, as other pictures might be. You could oversaturate this, and then it would be, I think, a bit of a struggle. But I like the soft or muted colors that you've chosen. It works, I think, well with sort of the texturing that you've put on this, and the texturing is on the subtle side as well, relatively speaking. And I think that that helps. Like the lily pads themselves don't have a lot of texture in them. It's mostly the water, and a little bit on the trees. And I think that kind of spacing that out or varying that within the picture is what makes it work. But it's a very classic sort of landscape picture, and I think it works very well. It's a 9.
Diving for Dinner.
That's very nicely caught. The owls are like very sharp in every single frame or part of this. I guess the one thing that I would wish is you've separated the first 3 pretty nicely, but the fourth one sort of overlaps on the third one, the one at the very top. And I kind of wish that there was a bit more separate, that it was a little bit more separation between the various captures of the owl itself. But it really gives a very beautiful sense of flow. If you look at how the wing changes on the right, the one on the left stays very similar, but the one on the right, and the head, you can see the head turning. It's really, you've captured the owl really spectacularly. The light on him is beautiful. And I like the background is just perfectly blurred as well. I'll give this one a 9.
Portal Home.
You know, a lot of these architectural ones that you see are often in black and white. And what strikes me about this one is obviously the color. And I like the color. I think the color adds a kind of a dynamic quality to it that really makes it different. Beautiful symmetry. It's a 9.
Bicycle Illusion.
I love the dreamy quality of this. The variety of the pastel colors that you have are really, really nice. You have pretty much the whole rainbow in this, which I think is quite nice. And the light kind of wraps, it kind of curves. If you come from the lightest mid bottom, and then it kind of makes a curve around in front and around the bicycle and goes out the top. I think that's a nice gives it a nice sense of flow. The upper left and the lower right are on the dark side. Playing around with maybe lightening them a little bit might change the feel of it. But on the other hand, I think that light to dark also gives it a sense of depth that you might lose if you lightened it too much. This one's a 9.
Bodie Ghost Town.
Wonderful place to visit. Yeah, I like the angle that you've captured, where you're sort of up and looking down on the town. You're up at some kind of elevation. And I really like the fact that you captured this one lone building in the upper right-hand corner that's sort of separated from all the other buildings. I think you've done a great job of kind of mimicking an old photograph that fits very well with the subject matter. I'll give this one an 8.
I'm sorry, I missed the name of this.
Oh, okay. This is an interesting. There's an interesting quality to this. You know, you have the bird hawk on a tree, a dead tree, and you can see in the background some other trees and maybe some water. And then on top of that, you've put these little paint splatters, which is an interesting quality. I think it adds an artistic element to it. But I would say maybe looking at the placement, like you have some of the red spatters are kind of right at his beak. That I think feels a little like I wouldn't. It almost interferes with the hawk himself. So maybe repositioning that part of it a little bit. This could be I don't know, a picture of something else over imposed. Perhaps it is. Maybe it looks like water, but maybe cloning out some of the ones that don't fit with the picture as well, like the ones around his beak and the ones around the big red splash around the end of the log itself. It kind of fights with the image rather than works with the image. So I think cleaning up some of the speckles would enhance this quite a bit, but I love kind of the feel and sort of the originality. I'll give it an 8.
Image 0395.
I like this sense of stacking that you've done in this picture. It gets dark on the right-hand side to the point where I can't, it's hard to interpret. So maybe cropping out over to the wine glass and just having it more squared up and focusing on sort of the elements that have more contrast in them. The right-hand side is so dark that you kind of lose the end of the picture. But the stacking is quite interesting. And I love the kind of the one oddball thing is the leaf that's over here in the upper left. But I think it adds a sense of, I don't know, mystery perhaps to the whole picture. I'll give it an 8.
Bambi's Brook.
I think with this image, if I didn't know the name of it, I would be hard pressed to actually, I can see the brook, but the texture is so similar to, I guess, the flowers and that are on the left and the right that without the name, I would have a hard time interpreting this image. And this is I think an image where, again, maybe changing the texturing on the flower and land part versus the water part would help give visual clues as to what the elements are. I'll give this one an 8. I love the colors in it though. Colors are gorgeous.
Longwood's pipe organ.
Yeah, I love all the twisty curves that are in this. They're I never would have guessed it was an organ, which is just fine. And the quality of the twist and the details in them are actually quite nice. There's sort of a music, there is a kind of a musicality to this. There's repetition and sort of elements that remind me of music. I think the one thing that I noticed is the left side is kind of on the dark, and then there's this kind of bright orange in the very middle. I think maybe matching that orange, maybe darkening it a tiny bit so that it feels like it fits in with the rest of the picture. Something to try to see if that would work. Or lightening the other parts that are darker than the orange so that they don't feel they feel a little bit separated. But I think kind of the composition, how you manage to get all these wonderful curves that actually look good together, that's a really tricky thing to do. I'll give this one a 9.
Exploding Gilmore's guitar.
I think this is a beautiful picture. I love the sort of just the feel of it, the subtlety. The background is beautiful, but it's subtle. And then the guitar itself has that same feeling of soft and grace. And it's a really beautifully done image. I like it a lot. It's a 9.
Great egret displaying.
I like, it's kind of interesting. One of the first things I noticed is actually the egret, the branch that he's sitting on has the same shape as he does. If you notice, like there's a beak. So there's a curve ahead almost at the bottom right that sort of mimics the bird itself, which I think is an interesting element of repetition. Kind of the forms though that he goes through, the kind of the bird at rest is sharp. The other two are not. There's motion blur. And I think for an image like this to work, it would be best if you had all the elements sort of in focus, basically. And again, I'm not sure sort of the kind of the way the two upper parts interact. I wish they were a little bit more separated from each other. I'll give this one an 8.
Alrighty, we have 10 9s. So we need first, second, third, and 4 HMs out of these.
So I need 7 total. So I have to take out 3.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll go through them. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and number 10.
So 3 have to come out. You can take the third one out, the kind of lilac, the tulip picture.
Okay.
And you can take out the next to the last one, the orange organ thing.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And could you run through the rest of them real quick again? it can be very fast. Wait a minute, maybe not quite that fast.
Yeah, hit the wrong button. All right,
It's
so
okay.
this is, see if the thumbnails will come up. All right, so this is 1, 2,
That
3,
one's out. Like that
4,
one.
5, 6, 7, 8,
Okay,
and 10.
you can take out the owl picture.
That one also, okay.
Yes, that one's out. Now I need a first, second, and a third.
So we have with this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this
Matt,
one. Yes,
you're saying this one faster than you're actually showing them. So just
That's
FYI.
fine.
and this one.
Yeah. Hey, let's see. I need 3. Okay, third place will be the architectural one that's in color, that's next to the owl.
This one,
Yes.
okay. It's third place.
Can you go to the very end? Let me take a look at the very last one.
Mm-hmm.
And then go back to the wave, which is on the other side, right next to the tulips.
This one,
Yes. Okay, this one is second place.
okay.
And then the exploding guitars, first place.
All right. Okay. And we'll review this, and then you have one more task, and that's the best of show.
Okay.
Okay, honorable mentions, level 4. Joe Gilchrist, Oculus. Congratulations, Joe.
It's very interesting, Joe.
Getting Breakfast, Francisco Gomez, honorable mention. Congratulations, Francisco. Stairway to Heaven, Lynn Padway, honorable mention. Congratulations, Lynn. And Bicycle Illusion, JC Roy. Congratulations, JC. Third place. Portal Hole, Joe Gilchrist. Congratulations again, Joe. Second place. Deconstructed Wave, Linda Heath. Congratulations, Linda. Welcome back. We haven't seen you in a while.
All right, so give me 2 seconds, and I'll put together the best of show.
I ask Joe Gilchrist if you can stay on the line a few minutes after at something that we have to talk to you about.
Copy. All right, so we have 4 images. We need 1 as best to show. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
I can go scroll through any ones you want to see.
Let me see the first and the third one again.
So this one,
Yep, and the third one, the guitar.
and this one.
And go back to the first one again.
That one.
Yeah, it's going to be this one. I just think it's just got a lot of fabulous elements in it.
All right.
And I love the floating guitar too. It's such a hard choice. Ugh.
All right, we're gonna review this contest. These are all the first placed for all the group levels. And here we go.
So this is level 2, I believe, 4 and 1 on black, Walter Blitz. Congratulations, Walter.
I think Walter was here, but I don't know where he went.
He was, yeah. He's under professor something. Don't know
Yeah,
where
then he
he
said that he didn't have any sound, so maybe he left.
went. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not here.
I don't see him. Okay.
Exploding Gilmore's guitar, Linda Heath again. Congratulations, Linda, level 4 first place winner.
I believe this is Linda, right?
Yeah, Linda's on. There she is.
Yeah. I'm here.
I love this image. It's absolutely beautiful.
Tell us about it, Linda.
Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
Oh, okay. I went to a David Gilmour from Pink Floyd auctioned off 100 of his guitars for charity.
Hmm.
So I went to the auction and I took pictures of a lot of the different guitars. This was a plexiglass guitar, so it's see-through. So playing around with it, it made some really gorgeous photos, you know, through different filters and stuff. So this turned out to be my favorite. I have a few guitars with different filters, but this was my favorite. So by the way, he raised $29 million on 100 guitars
you. Wow.
Wow.
for charity. So,
Hmm.
Which one did you buy?
well, let's just say that my amount, this guitar actually was only supposed to go for $2,000 or $3,000, and it went for $79,000.
Wow.
So my bid would have been out the window the first 3 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice.
And this is level 1 first place winner, Susan Freeman. Susan, are you on? I think she is. I think she's under Susan.
All right, we'll unmute Susan. See, Susan, do you have a mic?
She's not unmuted yet.
Yeah, I hit ask to unmute. Maybe I'm not sure.
Susan, can you unmute yourself? So I'm pretty sure that's her. There you go. Okay, you're unmuted. Can you talk to us? We do not hear you.
Yeah, I don't think she works.
I mean, I have a mic. Okay. Well, anyway, congratulations, Susan. This is it's beautiful.
I've opened up the chat so you can tell us about it in chat if you want to go there and mention stuff.
And our best in show, Michael Padley, steeplechase in pandemic winter. Congratulations, Mike. Get you off mute, Mike, and you can tell us about it.
I think Valerie and I are fighting over the mute control.
There you go.
You're
You're
unmuted,
off.
Michael. Tell us about it.
Okay. This was actually 3 different photos that I took at 3 different times. The first one was black and white of Steeplechase Amusement Park in Brooklyn in the winter. And that was in the 70s. The other 2 photos were the orange, red, yellow sky, and the fish that make up the background of this, that also make up the sky. And I took those two photos in the 2000s, and I blended them together with layers, and I think also different opacicities, is that the term? And it seemed to work out for me. I like it. I love it.
Well, we do too. It's beautiful, Mike.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. I was looking for surrealism.
Think you got it.
Yep.
You and Escher.
I wish.
Very, very nice. Well, congratulations, everyone. And Barbara, thank you so much for all your comments and your hard work and judging this for us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. It's a lot of fun when you have so many like wonderful pictures to look at. It's very inspiring.
Oh, there's Susan.
Yeah, so I unmuted I connected through the phone also.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Can you tell us about your image, Susan?
The amaryllis is pink. I was really lucky in my amaryllis in that normal amaryllis, I believe, has 4 flowers on each stalk. And this one I had 3 buds, which is unusual, but so one had 6, and I think this is the 8. And then there's the next 6 coming up. And I'm sorry to say I was in a rush for this contest and I just changed the color. So I wanted something simple. The reason for the shadow is that the pot is posed on the back of my couch, which is close to the wall. So, each day I'd put the pot up and take the photo because it was a very exciting flower. And I was tempted to go to purple, but I liked the blue better because it had a little color variation. You still see a little of the pink. Nothing else really to say unless there are questions.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Hey,
So-
everybody. Don't forget about our February 12th Saturday meeting. I think it's going to be a fabulous presentation. It's going to be so nice to have someone joining us from the other side of the pond, so to speak. And we're expecting a lot of guests as well. So you sign on early. We will not plan to cover any club business unless there's something really pressing. So it'll be just the speaker and us. So we're looking forward to that. And congratulations again to all the winners.